Bowling with the Theft.
I encourage you to get theft.
Your bowling stories.
For all things the game of bowling.
Every week.
Helping bowlers.
The hand collapses down.
Live.
And I'm going to try to bowl the best I can.
2,000 subscribers. 2,000 subscribers.
And I want to challenge Chad Nelson.
Tom Corbett.
Jason Belmonte.
Let's do this. This is Bowling with the Pfaff.
Well, hey everyone, good Wednesday evening. Welcome to another episode of Bowling with the Pfaff, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story. We have got a great one tonight. Can't wait to get into her story and all the things that she's experienced in this great sport. Got a couple items to get to before that, and kind of a nice surprise for next week that you'll want to stay tuned to find out about. We'll reveal that at the end of the show. And yeah, pretty interesting day around here in Bowling with the Pfaffville. Well, just when you thought that Lee Jane Singh was unbeatable, she finished a win away from yet another major title on the PWBA Tour. She's just been on an impressive run. The thing is, she did not win in the championship last night at the Queens. Instead, it was Josie Barnes coming away with her second career major last night, winning in the championship game 211 to 198. The title is Barnes' fifth, and she is now Hall of Fame eligible. Shia G, and I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. Maybe our guest can help me with that. Was the winner in the first event of the season, the PWBA Topeka Open. Yeah, a great start so far to the PWBA season. Can't wait to see. Oh, there we go. Chris, just when I need him. Shia Ung. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Sydney, for tuning in. Great to have you folks live. There is a live chat there if you want to chime in and correct me when I butcher a name, which happens more than it should. But, you know, we're all human, right? Quickly and confidently. That's how I try to say these names. Well, a strong performance in singles, doubles, and team bowling cemented a border battle victory for the Minnesota Junior Bowlers Tour for the first time this past weekend. They defeated the Wisconsin Youth Bowlers Tour 49 points to 31 in the event. It was contested at Wagner's Lanes in Eau Claire and, of course, streamed right here on the Bowling with the Pfaff channel live. Mindset was the key for the Minnesota team, they said, after they sealed up the victory in a team event that was a Swiss-style competition. And very exciting stuff for them. Here's what they had to say afterwards.
We came in just having fun. You know, we come here to have fun. Friendly competition between the guys and the girls. And I'm not going to say I'm shocked we won, but it was a nice surprise, you know, for us to come in here, bowl good against, you know, Wisconsin, which on paper is probably the better team. But it was really cool that everyone stepped up, the guys and girls, and you know, we got the win.
We were able to all work together as a team, come, you know, together really strong and pull through. So it's really exciting. It makes me really excited for the future too, and just to see all the great talent. So.
Yeah, and there was great talent on both sides. Congratulations, Minnesota Junior Bowlers Tour. This is an event that has been running 3 years now, and the WYBT did win it in 2023 and 2024. MJBT tournament director Darren Hansen told me this will probably be the last year of the border battle, as he isn't seeing the number of girls entering MJBTs that he needs to field a team with several of his girls aging out. He also said he doesn't think that it necessarily will go away forever, so we'll have to see how that shakes out in the months ahead. Wapaka's Braden Malish won the WYBT event at Wagner's on Sunday. Just a great all-star weekend full of bowling at Wagner's Lanes in Eau Claire. Hey, we do have a merch store for the channel, etsy.com/shop/bowling with the Pfaff Co. I was wearing one of the hoodies from that merch store at Wagner's to keep warm because it gets awfully cold when you're not out there throwing the ball. Also t-shirts and great stuff for those of you who want to support the channel in that way. Jerry's Score More Bowling Supply, another supporter of Bowling with the Fef. He's inside Wagner's Lanes. You can reach him at 715-559-1822. He can get you hooked up with all the accessories you need and the coaching you need too. He's an excellent coach. Go see him if you are in the area and in need of bowling services. And
raise your snack standards. Chip Magnet Salsa.
oh, baby, Chip Magnet Salsa. It is great stuff. I keep hearing it over and over again. And because you watch Bowling with the Fef, have I got a deal for you. If you go to chipmagnetsalsa.com, enter promo code BWTF2025 at checkout, you get 25% off a 6-pack order, and there is no limit to that deal. So a great deal from our friends at Chip Magnet, who also sell across the Midwest and the country in grocery stores near you. And they are on Amazon as well. They have an Amazon shop. Just search for Chip Magnet Store and stock up. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. And as always, thank you so much to the folks at Chip Magnet for supporting local bowling and Bowling with the Fef. Well, tonight's guest has gone from a stellar collegiate career straight to the PWBA Tour. She didn't even take time to participate in her own college graduation ceremony, as there was professional bowling to do. And yes, she is on a week off from the tour right now. So far, Kelly Whipple of Sheboygan hasn't quite had the performances she had hoped for, finishing 93rd in Topeka and 152nd at the Queens. But she does have a head start in the cash department thanks to some special recognition she received recently. And Kelly is joining us tonight. She tells me this is the first time she's done one of these live interviews, and I'm glad that you chose us to, to kind of break you in that sense.
Yes. Hi, I'm so excited to be here and for this to be my first, I guess, interview.
Yeah, this is awesome. I'm really glad you came here. And on April 14th, you sit down for an interview with Chris Pulliam, and that wasn't live like this one is, but very impactful. Let me show you what happened. If I can find my little link here. Here's how it went.
We've been fortunate to have a lot of great applicants, and I would say even among those applicants, your story, your background really stood out to us, and that's why I'm really honored to be able to sit here with you and tell you today that you are our grand prize winner. $1,500 towards your PWBA season. So thank you so much for everything that you have done and that we know that you're going to do in the sport. We're really excited to get to watch you on tour this coming season.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you so much. I am super honored and grateful, and this is going to be like an incredible help. Relieve some of that financial stress that comes from being a college bowler out on tour.
Absolutely. Well, thank you
so
so much.
What an exciting moment. Tell us what it was like to live that.
Yeah, so he had invited me downstairs. He told me he wanted to, a second interview, kind of just catch up with me more on my story. And I was like, yeah, of course. So I made sure that I set apart some of my day to meet with him downstairs. And I had no idea. I genuinely thought it was a second interview because I knew that there had to have been some amazing applicants, and I figured it was hard, And when he told me, I literally was in shock. Like, all I could say was thank you, because I was truly just so grateful and honored. And I just couldn't believe I was in that moment at that time.
Yeah. Tell us about how you found out about Bowl Forward and the excellent stuff that, Chris and his advisory board is doing for women's bowling.
Yeah, definitely. So I remember Bowl Forward had first posted about it, and one of their ambassadors, Maria, she had reached out to me and sent it to me on Instagram, and she was like, "You have to apply for this." And at this point, I already knew that I was going to commit full time on tour no matter what. I was going to make it work. And I was like, holy cow, this would be an amazing opportunity, regardless of, if I won the big prize or if it was something smaller. I just knew that after researching them, that I wanted to be a part of this organization, and that I was going to, do anything I could to prove to them that I was worthy. And so I got a few good letter of recommendations, and I just wrote from my heart for my essay, and I just really told the truth on how I got here and, how it wasn't super easy. And I'm super glad that, Chris and the committee took a chance on me and, awarded me with, the big one.
Yeah, he did. I got to say, I'm a huge fan of Chris. I got to meet him about a year ago at the PWBA event in Eagan, and he's fantastic. He sat down with me for an interview. He was, first to let me know when Bowl Forward really kind of came to be, and from each of the developments along the way, he's been there. So of course I had to reach out, when we got to Whipple week here, right?
Yeah, of course.
Here's what he told me. He said, "First, let me say that while I sponsored the award, I was not a voting member of the committee. I wanted the decision to come from the women who truly knew what it takes to be successful on the tour. And what I heard from them was that Kelly wasn't only someone with a great story, but someone who clearly brings skill and a commitment to hard work to be a winner. But exemplifying the spirit of the award, she is also clearly willing to use her voice to lift up the sport and other athletes around her." He said, "When I had the opportunity to meet her in person and to watch her compete at Queens," he said, "all of that shone through for me as well." He said, "I think that she will be a tremendous ambassador for the award and the sport of bowling for many years to come."
Oh, yeah, he is super sweet. When I first met him, it made sense. I had researched the organization, I looked into him a little bit, and then when I had met him, I was like, this makes sense. This is a great person to be not only, running Bowl Forward and being an ambassador for the sport and the young athletes that are coming onto tour, but the award itself, and I was like, I'm piecing this all together. This is not only a great organization, but a great person running it. And he was out at the Queens, and he was extremely helpful to not only just me, but everyone, whether they were an ambassador for Bowl Forward, whether they were a recipient of the scholarship, or just, a regular person out there. He made sure everyone had help just carrying things to the next lane, making sure they were okay. He checked in on me after day one right away, when it wasn't my best performance. And I just told him, I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow. And if I don't fail, I'm never going to succeed. And, we had a really great conversation, and he was just, I'm glad to have him a part of my journey.
Yeah, that's great insight, and certainly not surprising, knowing what I know about Chris. Do you think that bowling needs more Chris Pulliams?
Yes. I think that we need a lot more Chris's. I think that if the sport had just a few more Chris's, it would be, it's already something great. But I think even specifically on the PWBA Tour, I think it would be something even more great, and just, it would really bring it to the next level. It's really important to have ambassadors and have a voice out on tour. And I think the ladies do a really good job of having a voice for themselves, but, we do need that. We do need that help. Especially, I went to the Hall of Fame induction on the night of the practice session. And to hear those stories of the women, specifically the ones who competed before the tour folded and then the relaunch of the tour, it was just so inspirational to hear, what those ladies had and then what they didn't have anymore, and then just what it meant to them to relaunch this tour. And I guess it's something that I hope I never have to be a part of. But it was, realistic, more realistic, I guess, hearing their stories and what could be taken from me. So
Sure. Well, I tell you what, bowling is a better sport with the PWBA Tour alive and well, and certainly glad to see folks like yourself and the other great athletes, competing out there at that level. Chris says, "Oh, geez, guys, you are awesome." This is Kelly's show. Let's talk about how awesome she is. That's Chris, though. He never wants the spotlight. He wants to, kind of raise you up and raise the others on tour up for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah, he really is. Sydney Forrester, and I don't know if this is someone you know or not, asks, what does Kelly think about the level of competition on the PWBA Tour?
Yeah, so I guess I bowled a couple PWBA events leading up to like my actual first full year on tour. And even though I'm 2 events in, I mean, the competition is incredible. Those ladies are all there for a reason, whether it's their first year, whether they've been there, since the tour relaunched, whether they are a couple years in. Tour is just so much bigger than the money or, the recognition or being a pro bowler. It's something so much more. So each of those ladies there are just so inspirational because every one of them has a story. You don't get to tour just because you get to walk right on and, throw a bowling ball. You have to be there for a reason and you have to want to be there. And I think what I saw this week is that the hard work and determination that goes into tour and just, I don't know, just being a part of something so amazing is so much more than what I thought it was. And so, the level of competition is fierce and it takes a lot to be successful out there. And yeah, it's very different than college bowling. I learned that very quickly. Very different. And you have to put in the work or, those ladies are going to put in more work than you. So,
yeah. And what I had planned to ask you on this is, considering that these events are still early in your career, what do you think led to the results that you've had so far this season? And you're in kind of a week off right now. So what do you do to kind of turn things around on the other side of that?
Yeah, so I went into Topeka with absolutely no expectations other than to learn because I had talked to somebody very wise out on tour, and they said that everyone expects the college bowlers to, especially the ones who had a successful career, to come out on tour and be successful right away. And they said that you cannot worry about what other people think of you. You have to worry about why you're here. You need to be grateful that you're there and you need to be ready to learn because otherwise it's going to be kind of a reality check. And so I went in with absolutely no expectations to a very stacked PTQ field. And when I didn't make it out, a lot of people were upset they didn't make it out, but I went straight to the ball reps and I started asking questions. What can I do better? How can I be more prepared for the queens? What can I change about my arsenal, my physical game, my mental game, lane play, like layouts, just every single question imaginable I asked. Even when I was so far out of the number, I knew I wasn't going to make it through. I was still asking questions, right? And then so I came back and I had a very few days between when I came back from Kansas to moving out of college to flying to the Queens. And I sat in the pro shop for hours and I drilled up an entire new arsenal, new layouts, new everything. And I went in with a new mindset to Queens. And again, it was really hard. I failed again. And what I told Chris and, kind of everyone else who asked me, what happened? I told them, I said, I needed to fail in order to succeed because I need to fail in order to see every single different thing that I need to work on, whether it's mentally, physically, just ball motion, layouts, arsenal. Like I need to fail in order to see what I need to do. And some people are going to come out here and have success. But I think it's important to fail because it's going to make winning or making that first cut or being successful that much more special, I guess.
Yeah.
And so if we go out there and we bowl well every week or we win every week, it's not going to be fun anymore. So I don't know. I think that this week that I have off, I'm going to work really hard, bowl a couple things here and there just to make sure I'm staying in that competitive mindset and practicing for competition, because what my coach always tells me is once you get out in competition, you're not going to rise to the occasion. You're going to seep down to the level that you prepared for. And so you have to keep preparing for those hard moments. And that's where the success is going to come from.
You know, what you just said there really strikes me as someone who is a little wiser than maybe the typical rookie, maybe the typical person who first comes out to a different level of competition like you're doing. Where does that come from? Do you, I guess, do you have a vast, pool of mental game knowledge to draw from? Have you been coached up by someone specifically? Is it just natural? Is there another answer that I'm not thinking of?
Yeah, so I think it's a couple different answers there. But to kind of keep it simple, I think growing up, I learned that you have to work for what you want. And that if you want to be somewhere, not everyone is going to have it, necessarily easy. And so I didn't necessarily have it easy, and I really had to work for where I wanted to be. And then college, I saw success. And as soon as I let up, I had a bad year, and I realized I cannot let up. I can't be happy with where I am. I have to always want to work hard and keep getting better and realize that even if I think I'm good, I'm not great. And I just have to keep working hard. And then this year, we got some new college coaches in from a really good program, and they worked with us really hard on mental game. And there was a couple times on the approach that, I would struggle. I love pressure, but sometimes, I would lose sight of why I was really there. And so they would tell me, you got to be grateful up there. So there's times I got on that approach, and out loud, every shot, I would say one thing I was grateful for, and I would go. So I think just it's through my experiences, whether it was through my childhood or through college or even just these first two events, I like to learn and I like to grow. And I just think it's important to take every single loss and learn something from it.
Yeah, well said. 8230 Pin Chaser says every successful person gives credit to others who have helped them in some way, and Kelly here is no exception. Very congenial. High praise.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Do you know who that is?
I do not.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I do,
Ew.
but
yeah,
usernames, they always get you.
Yeah, you can call yourself anything, but no, good stuff. Let's kind of go back to, your beginning in the sport. I mean, you're from Sheboygan. Is that where you grew up?
Yep. Born and raised.
All right. And for people who aren't familiar with the geography, it's about halfway between Milwaukee and Green Bay. So about an hour north of Milwaukee proper. How'd you get into the sport at first?
Yeah, so I was in leagues when I was young. My dad was briefly also in leagues, and they kind of just threw me in there. And I ended up one league season, I just believe I stopped bowling or something. I don't know. And then I got my first job when I was 14 at McDonald's. And I walked into my first day, and the guy training me, he was talking about bowling. I was like, oh, I used to bowl. He was like, oh, really? And I was like, I literally with a plastic ball down the lane. Like, it was nothing good. And he's like, well, the bowling alley across the street is looking for one more girl on their middle school team. And then this was like 6th grade, 7th grade. And I was like, oh yeah, like, no, thank you. That's not for me. Like, I'm not good. And he was like, no, like, I promise you can walk in there, no knowledge. The coach was the owner of the bowling alley at the time. And he was like, he will give you everything you need to start. I was like, okay, fine. You got me. So went home. I told my grandma, I was like, they want me to join the bowling team. And she's like, oh, that's awesome. Like, just let me know, what we need to attend. And believe I joined right before the season started. So walked into a practice, got me 2 balls drilled up, a strike ball and a spare ball. And we headed off to our first competition, and I was not good at all. And his daughter was on the team, and she was really good. And I looked up to her a lot. And she kind of took me under her wing, and her dad took me under the other. And we worked really hard in the bowling alley all the time. And I would bowl in my free time. Sometimes I would bowl twice a day. I'd go in the morning and I'd go at night, or I'd go to practice and then I'd go again just because I wanted to bowl so bad. And it just started coming a lot more naturally to me. Loved it. Joined the high school team. Same thing. Kept working with a lot of coaches. I would go to school, I would work, and then I'd bowl. And
so this guy is like salting the fries with one hand and kind of showing you the path that you're going to take as a career.
Yes.
At the same time.
Yes.
Do you ever look back and think, wow, what if I didn't listen to him?
Yeah. I was telling this story this week, actually, and I was just saying it out loud again. And I was like, wow, like, what would have happened if that series of events did not line up perfectly? I can't, but everything happens for a reason, and everything happens when it should. And I was meant to be working at that McDonald's at that time to see the rest of my life, I guess.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. So who is the coach? Who are these people? You know, the girl who you were bowling with and the coach.
Of course, yeah. So my home center was Lakeshore Lanes in Sheboygan. So Bill Hilbert and Melanie Hilbert was his daughter. And I had the support of their whole family. And then Dave Posh, he was another one of my coaches there, and Lisa Rordink and Dave Rordink, or Dan, sorry. And that was a husband and wife duo, and incredible families. I spent every single day in that bowling alley, just surrounded by great people. And we won middle school championships in 8th grade, and I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, I like winning. Joined the high school team, and we won my senior year. And I still didn't know if I was going to go to college to bowl yet. Never thought that I was good enough. But I knew that because I did a lot of JBSTs, WIBTs, stuff like that towards the end of high school. And so that was a great opportunity to compete against some really good youth bowlers. And that's where I met some Whitewater girls. And I looked up to them and thought that, I was like, these girls are incredible. Like, I want to be them. And so I emailed Leanne one day, and I was like, hi, I want to go to school for business, but I also really want to bowl. And she was like, District 7, that's so cool. I was in District 7 too. And she's like, come on down for a visit. And I met her, and I did not tour anywhere else. I was like, I'm going here.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. Wow. Another happy coincidence in there. Sydney wants to know, what advice would you give to upcoming high school bowlers to prepare for college and tougher sport and tournament conditions?
Yeah, so what I personally did is I found the youth tours in our area, and I traveled to every single tournament I could. Some of them were easier patterns, and then some of them were really, really hard. And, you kind of got the best of both worlds. And it really prepared me for things like junior gold and, stuff like that. And I was able to just see the level of competition that I was at. And it's kind of that thing, like, you need to fail to succeed. You need to see where the weak spots are in your game so you can, fix them and ultimately succeed in the end. So just really getting out there, bowling tournaments, whatever skill level you're at, and really pushing yourself to be a better bowler.
Yeah.
is important.
And we're really fortunate in the Midwest to have so many great junior tournament tours.
Yeah.
Really get people ready for that next step, whether it be high school or college.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Chris wants to know, once you got into bowling, did you start paying attention to professional bowling? If so, who did you admire? And he says women or men.
Yeah, so the cool thing about Wisconsin high school state is they bring in, well, even middle school, they bring in a pro every year.
Mhm.
And so that was my first time ever being in the presence of a professional bowler. And I was like, this is insane. Like, autograph, please, picture, please, And we also had, we were lucky enough to have the Sean Yonan in Sheboygan at Lake Shore Lanes every year. And that was a huge tournament. And they would bring in a professional bowler for that as well. And some professional bowlers would just come down for our ice bowling that night too. And so I really got the opportunity to be around them more and kind of, watch the PWBA shows more, specifically PWBA, just because, those were the women I wanted to be one day. And I remember the first woman bowler I ever met was Daria. And I thought she was incredible. I was like, this girl throws it so good. I saw her on TV all the time. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to strive to be. And then not only was she a good bowler, but she was also showing up to these events and advocating for bowling. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And so, I started paying attention to professional bowling once I got into bowling, specifically more high school. And then definitely when I was in college, I tried to not miss a show when they were on TV.
Yeah. Ice bowling?
Yes.
What
we would have, so we would have the Sean Yonan weekend, and it would always fall on ice bowling. And we have this ice rink in Sheboygan, not that far from Lakeshore. And they would set up the pins and you would literally be on ice bowling. Yeah. I never personally went, but I know a lot of adults did, specifically after the Friday night Baker tournament they always had.
Wow.
They would go bowl that, and then they'd go to the rink and bowl on ice.
How Wisconsin can you get, right?
Yeah, correct.
No, good stuff. When you got to Whitewater, was it everything you expected? I know you mentioned, hey, I had to kind of fail to succeed again, but was it tough to kind of get your bearings, or did you feel like you kind of fit in right away?
No, it was definitely a reality check. I got there and I was surrounded by a group of really, really talented girls, specifically that group of seniors. There was like 7 of them, and they were all phenomenal. They had just come off of a 3rd place finish at nationals that previous year. And so there were a lot of returners on that team who, made varsity right away. And I realized what I was, really missing in my game, and that I wasn't, quite at that level yet. And so I traveled JV for a few tournaments, worked really hard off the lanes and on the lanes just to become a better person, become better mentally, and then become better physically. And I had a couple meetings with the coach, and I was like, what can I work on? What can I work on? And she would keep giving me things to work on. And I really leaned into the men's team as well, just to give me insight on what college bowling is like, what they thought I should work on, just as a perspective of, a younger college bowler. So they'd help me as well. And I went and bowled team trials that year. I was like, I'm really going to push myself, because I wasn't satisfied with the level of competition I was, allowing myself to be. And so I went out and competed on the actual biggest stage you could imagine, besides tour. And I bowled relatively well that year. And my coach texted me immediately after, and she was like, I am so proud of you. You proved everything that I wanted you to work on. You proved to me out there, and I'd like to travel you to our next varsity tournament. So went to New Jersey, and I bowled the rest of the year, and I snuck in just enough frames to win Rookie of the Year that year. So I definitely faced some adversity, but it was nice to see the results at the end of that year. Yeah.
Yeah. Who are some of the other ladies on that team? And I want to tell people, I mean, no doubt everyone's, heard of the Whitewater men's team for their national titles and all that. I mean, even here in Wisconsin, the Whitewater men's program has been phenomenal for decades. I've been on the short end of that stick several times in my college career, but the women's team also has been phenomenal. They have, tons of tournament wins and, ruled the conference here. I mean, you've had a lot of great players come through that university. And like you said, coming into a season with several seniors, I'm guessing you had some great ones there too.
Yeah, we definitely did. When I won my Rookie of the Year freshman year, it was the first year that they changed the way they do it. So instead of they award the D1 Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, and then D2 and D3 used to be crunched into one division, which kind of made D3 a little unrepresented because, it would always be a D2 bowler. And so they finally came together and decided that we need to recognize these D3 athletes just as much so as anyone else. So this was the first year they awarded a separate D3 Rookie of the Year and Player of the Year. So I won Rookie of the Year, and then Caitlin Mertens won Player of the Year that year. And so that was I want to say she was our third Player of the Year. We had a few in years prior when it was still D2, D3. And so she was our anchor that entire year. Yeah, she was phenomenal bowler.
Yeah. And to have two big awards coming from the same team has got to be rare too.
Yeah. That was a really cool moment for our university. And there was definitely all eyes on the bowling team after that year. And then we graduated 7 seniors. And I believe it was 7. And we gained some freshmen in that ended up being really valuable to us. And we went our sophomore year, made it to nationals, and gave it a good run that year. We definitely had all eyes on Whitewater that year after those awards. And then we had a really great season. We had our first NCAA tournament win in a few years. It was like maybe 10 years. Wow. And made it to nationals. We fought, it was like 150 pin deficit in 4 games to jump into 4th in our sectional to make it out.
Wow.
And we gave it a great run. And then I ended up winning Player of the Year that year as well.
Oh, that's incredible. Take me back to that moment, when you're down 150. What are you telling each other? What did it take to overcome that?
Yeah, that was an insane 45, 50 minutes. We knew we were down a lot, and your seating based on which lane they put you on for the position round. And so we knew we were out of it. We knew we were out by a lot, and because all the screens are right there, and we looked at each other and we were like, if anyone is going to care more, it needs to be in this moment right now. And you just need to throw 8 more good shots from everyone in this lineup and, show each other that you want it enough. And we went up and we threw strike after strike after strike. And, we were really a team in that moment. And all the teams to the right of us or to the left of us started to crumble and gave us just enough pins back that we were able to jump in.
Wow. And like you said, 45 or 50 minutes. And then you come out of that and you're probably looking at each other like, oh my gosh, we did that.
Yeah. I knew going into my 10th frame that we had did it. So I couldn't even throw a good shot. I'm up there shaking. Like I looked at Leanne and I was like, did we do it? And she's like, we just need to shoot 140 this game. We just need to shoot 140 this game. And this was like in the 7th frame. And we had some splits in there, but we were close. And I believe the 8th or 9th frame got filled and I knew it. And so I went up there and I was like, oh my gosh, and, throw it out the window. And then I spare it and I wrap a 10 and I throw my hands up in the air and that's probably the happiest I'll ever be for a wrap 10. But yeah, I knew it. And I hugged my teammates. And then we actually were about to miss our flight. So we flew out of that bowling alley. We ran out of there so fast. But yeah, it was just such a cool moment. We were finally in the car on the way to the airport and able to breathe. And we were like, oh my gosh, we just did that. So yeah, no, that was a really cool moment. And it was exactly what we did this year.
Yeah. What did you do off the lanes that kind of helped build that chemistry? Because we see you on Bowl TV or when we have the good fortune to visit one of these events, but we don't know what happens after that last ball is thrown. How do you, maintain that mental edge and that chemistry with your teammates when you're outside of the bowling center?
So I think that, and this is just in general, not necessarily that year or my 4 years or anything, but just in general, I think it's super important to respect one another. That is the first and foremost most important thing that when it comes to team chemistry. I think you all need to have respect for each other and just staying in our bubble and sticking to ourselves and our process and just really buying into one another. When that person's on that approach, your full undivided attention goes to them. And specifically this year, we really focused on things that specific people needed to hear. So we were never repeating things up on that approach to one another. We were talking from the heart and what we knew they needed to hear. We had specific words that each person needed to hear in that moment. And just, really buying in and trusting one another and doing it because you're just grateful to be there. And then it also helps that, we spend every waking second with these girls most of the time. So, being friends and, bonding at practice or at dinners or, game nights or something like that. Just, living that out that dream with one another and respecting one another, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. You also kept bowling the junior tournaments while you were a student at Whitewater, right?
Yeah, I did. One of my goals was to completely fund my education myself. And so between scholarships in FAFSA and bowling, I was able to do that, thankfully. And but those WIBTs, JVSTs, Junior Gold, EYTs, ISSTs, bowled them all. They were super important for me to be able to come up with enough money to fund my education. So I specifically kept bowling the WIBTs. Those really challenged me, really good competition. We'd get a lot of Illinois bowlers to come up, and grueling patterns forced me to make my spares,
Yeah.
So
on that point, you also were part of the all-star team that went to the first border battle.
I was.
And I was there too. And I happened to find a particular moment when your spare shooting did really impact your team. Take a look. Kelly Whipple, the NCAA Division III Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year, needs this 10-pin. And she's got it. So stay behind the foul line, keep it on the lane, and they'll take that game in what turned out to be a really tight game. You're going to have to, imagine the pin going down because that girl's head was in the way. But do you remember that moment?
I do. I remember stepping up there and being like, wow, I can't believe I have to make a spare and it's a 10-pin right now. But I was like, I'm going to go up and do this thing because I like to win.
Yeah. To take that first border battle and then, Wisconsin takes it again the next year. How important was that, for you? I know it's not a matter of points for WYBT or an incredible haul of scholarship cash, but there's bragging rights there, right?
Yeah, no, that was huge. And to be a part of the first team, I remember when they first brought up the idea of having some sort of, battle, kind of like the Lake Michigan Cup. And I had been a part of the Lake Michigan Cup for 4 years. And so I was like, that would be awesome. And I'd love to be on it and to compete against Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota brings a stacked roster. And so just going out there and having fun, with a team and doing it with a really talented group of girls was super cool. And then winning and having those bragging rights was also super cool because that tournament, for people that aren't from the Midwest, it's a pretty cool tournament. It's a cool thing to be a part of, but it's also a really cool thing to win. So yeah, it's definitely something special. So
for sure. Chris said, you mentioned you've gone into the beginning of the PWBA season without expectation. Even with that mentality, has anything surprised you so far about being on tour?
Yeah, I guess I don't know if I would use the word surprise, but it definitely is just a lot different. And I don't want to say I got humbled because I didn't expect to go out there and bowl well right away. I just literally just wanted to learn, but I guess it was kind of a reality check of how different it is. And I know these girls are good, but how good these girls are. And not only that, but like how good their mental games are. And just the conversations I've had with a few of my like tour roommates and stuff like that. Just knowing that if they're not throwing the ball the greatest, they are so mentally tough that they're always going to come out on top anyways. And so you really have to, buy into what you're doing and, do it for a bigger reason. And I guess I didn't realize how, many people thought that way. So.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's really cool to see that kind of a collection of stars, yourself included, attacking patterns differently and, doing the things that you've done that have proven, to be a successful formula for you and kind of engaged in that, mental chess match with each other is, I thought is always cool to see. Especially in person for those who haven't. A lot of us, especially here in Wisconsin, have seen your social videos. We've seen, your excellent presence on social media. And, as Chris said, you have a great platform and you use it to the betterment of all in the sport. But you can't shoot those videos alone, right? You had to have help along the way. And I heard that Carter Westcott has been a big help in, getting those videos shot for you. How did that, relationship come to be?
Yeah, so I started that social media channel or Instagram my February of my junior year as I wouldn't say a complete joke, but I did not think anyone would see it. I thought maybe a couple hundred people who were sick of me posting bowling on my normal Instagram, they were like, okay, Kelly, go post this somewhere else. I was like, okay, I will. And so I started posting videos just for fun, like solely fun. Like my friends would lay on the ground and get these like obnoxious angles and, we would laugh, we would have fun, we would joke about it. And then one day a video blew up. And then they kept blowing up and they kept blowing up in a matter of 2 months. And I was like, wow, like this is kind of insane. I don't understand what's going on, but I'm having fun and I'm going to keep doing it. And then Carter recently, I guess, not anymore, but started doing the same thing. He started posting on TikTok and stuff like that. And it was all just for fun. Like it was like, we've talked about it before and we say that editing these videos is way more fun than actually like posting them. I don't know. Like I watch myself and I will sit there and I will laugh for 30 minutes and they'll be like, okay, post. Like it's so fun. And Carter, has been a huge part of my success as well. And he's always down to film something funny or, a lot of people, you know, want the 5 minutes of fame or they just want to be included or something. But Carter really understands what it's like to kind of have that platform. And he's always respected my platform, has never, I guess, quote unquote, used me for the platform. And he just genuinely loves the sport as much as I do and loves creating content as much as I do. And so it's fun to always collab with him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the border battle being here,
Mhm.
And Carter being a part of that, I had to ask him about this whole video thing. Here's what he said.
It's fun to see her, manage some Kwik Trip jerseys because she's sponsored by Kwik Trip as well. So a lot of the stuff she does with that is comedic and funny and just all positive, happy stuff. So Kelly's a really good person to be around or film with.
Do you know anybody else in bowling who is sponsored by Kwik Trip?
No. Kelly is the only person that I know that is sponsored by Kwik Trip, period. Not just bowling, but the only person I know sponsored by Kwik Trip is Kelly. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world because Kwik Trip is just the best gas station.
So then I went and asked Kwik Trip about this whole thing because I'm like, wow, is she really the only bowling for? And yes, they said you are the only bowler who has an influencer arrangement with them. They said, we actually discovered Kelly through an Instagram reel of her bowling, and she immediately caught our attention. After learning she was from Wisconsin, we followed her and knew she'd be a great fit for our brand. That's amazing. It's amazing that you've got that partnership, but I'm thinking, she applied and, knocked on the door so much that finally they couldn't keep turning her away. But no, they found you.
They did. I didn't catch their follow at first because it was in the middle of everything kind of blowing up and they followed me. They liked the video. And then a few days later, I was bowling a regional. And so I didn't have my phone and someone else had my phone and they commented Queen Energy or something. And she screams on the top of her lungs. She was like, oh my gosh, Kwik Trip just commented, and I dropped everything I was doing. I'm in the middle of this regional. I'm literally throwing a ball down the lane, coming back, being like, oh my gosh, this is what you need to type. I have her respond or DM them immediately. And the next day I had a meeting with them.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
The other thing I asked is, what goes into deciding who will or will not be considered and even approved for an arrangement like yours? They said, our team takes many factors into consideration when selecting influencers and NIL athletes for partnerships. Our NIL partnerships revolve around social media activation, so we do require influencers to actively post on public social media accounts. If interested in applying, blah, 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 there are links. I can put them in the show notes and all that good stuff. But, they said Kwik Trip currently has more than 60 influencers and NIL athletes representing their brand. You are currently the only bowler they have on the team, but they are not limited to one athlete per sport. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Kelly has been an amazing asset to our influencer team, and we are so lucky to have such a fantastic partnership with her.
Oh, that is so sweet to hear. Yeah, they're an incredible social team. I got to meet the social team in Milwaukee last summer because they had an influencer event that I actually got to attend. And I got to hang out with the team. I had a whole day on the lake with them. I learned how to water surf, which I wasn't good at all. And we got dinner and stuff, and I got to hang out with them, and they are just great people. So not only are they a great company, but they have a lot of great people working for them. So it has been an incredible, crazy year and a half with them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's it been like as far as the job, right? We got to call it a job because you're acting as a brand ambassador. What do you have to do? How often do you have to do it? And, what's the compensation?
Yeah, so I So we have an agreement. They kind of asked me right off the bat. They're like, how much do you post? I was like, pretty much every day. At the time, I was posting every single day. I would go in, I'd practice, or I'd bowl for fun, and I'd post a video. And so we came up with a number of reels they wanted me to post. And it was so much more than like, oh, you're required to post this, this, and this. Like, I kind of really ran with it. I was like, this is so fun, and how grateful am I and lucky to be able to do this. So I ran with it, and my friends were fully on board to help. I was like, okay, guys, I need to go film a quick trip video, and I will have an entire friend group behind me, and I will walk through quick trips, and they look at me like, who is this girl? Or I've had some of the employees be like, oh my gosh, you're Kelly Whipple. Like, we sponsor you. So yeah, quick trips have been incredible. You know, I love when they release new products because I get to be a part of those usually. And I just really get to be creative. They have no limitations. So I usually film something completely like abnormal, crazy. Like, I probably overstep every boundary of a normal video there is. And then I send it to them and they're like, you are so funny, like good to go. And I post it. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what I do for them.
That's the dream, to have a job that you love, and you got 2 of them. Wow.
Yeah. And pretty much I ran with it. So I had this vision. I was like, okay, I want to bring them on to tour with me. But with the local requirements, you know, I knew that Kwik Trip wasn't going to register with the PWBA, just me being the only bowler that they would sponsor. So I was like, okay, I got to get creative. And so I reached out to my graphic designer at H5G, and I was like, this is my vision. Here's what their glazers look like. Here's their color. Have fun. And he responded to me within hours with this incredible, amazing Kwik Trip jersey. And so now they will forever be on tour with me.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. Patricia Stanton says, so proud of you, Kelly, and all you have achieved. I love seeing your bowling pics and videos. So see, the bowling pics go over well with some folks.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
I know my graduation pictures in Kwik Trip were like, that was like the best idea I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said off the top, I mean, you foregone, whatever the word is, graduation because there was bowling to do.
I did.
Yeah.
I knew that right away.
Yeah. Why'd you make that decision?
Yeah, so for some reason, I thought that graduation was the week before. And so I was like, okay, I can do this. If I don't make the cut at Topeka, I'll graduate and I'll go to the Queens. And then I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, graduation's on the 3rd day of qualifying. Well, at first I was like, oh my gosh, graduation's during the Queens. And I was like, okay, well, if I don't make the cut, I fly home, I graduate. No, last day of qualifying was on Saturday. And I looked at, I think the first person I looked at was my coach, Kayla. And I was like, I'm not walking. And she was like, I wouldn't. She was like, you know, this person and this person and this person didn't walk. She was like, if you don't want to walk, don't do it. And I was like, I'm not going to. Like, I care so much about going full time. And especially when I found out I won the Bowl Forward Scholarship, I knew that I needed to, you know, withhold my duties of going full time. But also the Queens, like, that's such a special tournament to be a part of. I couldn't miss that for my rookie season. So I called my mom up and I was like, I'm not walking the stage. And she was like, you know what? You do you. Like, she was like, you know that bowling is going to be your career one day. And, you know, school's important, but, you know, your career in bowling is even more important. So she was like, you do what makes you happy. And I was like, thank you.
Yeah. And I read this week that Jeff Riggles mentioned he forewent his graduation.
He did, yeah.
A Bowling with the Champs event in Milwaukee. So it happened.
It sounds like more bowlers didn't walk than did, because especially ones that went on tour or, you know, were really trying to take bowling serious at the time. It sounds like there was always a conflict of interest and they just went with the bowling.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like I said off the top, tremendous collegiate career. You end up with another player of the year your senior season, and now you're the great senior player that younger teammates look up to and want to be like, right? One of them, Ashley Bowe, said this at the border battle.
Kelly is a really good person. She's super supportive. Every single time that I even have a bad shot or anything, like, she's the first person I look to. There was a moment when we were on TV and I tripped like a split, and I came back and I just like gave everything I could to Kelly, and she reciprocated it, and it was just an amazing experience to be with her for the last 2 years.
You remember that?
I do. I think she folded. It was either like the big 4 or the 4-9, and I jumped in the air. I always was up front, like, especially my senior year, I wanted to take it all in. And the thing that I loved most about college bowling was probably giving the energy to my teammates or giving it back to them. And so I made sure I was always in front, double high fives. I was known for double high fives. Someone would have to, they had something in their hand, they had to put it down. Or if I had something in my hand, like if I had a thumb, I'd throw it in the bucket, or I'd put it in my pocket, or I'd be like, here, take this, double high five. So yeah, Ashley was one of the best energy givers, and anytime she was bowling or when she wasn't, she'd give her all. And so every time she came off the lane, I was there to give it back to her.
That's awesome. Really cool. I'm glad Chris is here. Chose or go. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Forwent is kind of awkward. So yeah, that didn't really do it. I like to ask people where you go from here, but obviously you go to Cleveland. What do you, I guess, what can you say about continuing this incredible journey, being full-time on the PWBA Tour, and what your expectations are now that you've gone a couple events without expectations?
Yeah, so obviously, in simple words, my goal is to make the cut somewhere eventually, but mostly just learning enough and growing enough to where I can get there. And so I hope every tournament I have learned enough to get me there. And if I didn't, just keep going in with the same mindset and not being discouraged. And I think the thing that is the most cool about Tour is that every time I don't make a cut, I can come back next week. It will never be taken away from me. And so just knowing that stability is there, and I have this structure, and that nothing is unknown, because I know that if I don't make the cut in Cleveland, I have Waterloo. And if I don't make the Waterloo cut, I have the US Open, and I can just keep getting up and trying again. And so one thing everyone has told me is just don't become discouraged. But I really can't foresee myself getting discouraged, because that's going to make me even more hungry to succeed at the next stop. So
you mentioned H5G, one of your partnerships. We know about Kwik Trip and Bowl Forward. Who else is supporting you while you're out on tour?
Yeah, so to kind of go down the list, I'm going to make sure I don't forget anyone. I have Hammer. I have Vice. I have Amplify. I have H5G. I have Kwik Trip. 10-pin toolkit. And yeah, I have some, whether they're sponsors or not, I have some great people behind me. I have some great ball drillers, just great people back home who are always willing to help.
Yeah.
I'm making sure I didn't forget anybody.
They all
I have a whole graphic. I have a graphic. But yeah, just some incredible people that I have met throughout the years, specifically this last year.
The cliche is it takes a village, but it really does.
It really does. Every single day I'm out there, I pick up my equipment or my chamois or put on my shoes or put on my jersey, and I'm just reminded by how many people I actually have behind me. And then obviously, Bowl Forward.
Yeah. But I mentioned at the top,
yeah,
so you're good there, right, Chris?
I will never forget Chris. waiting on those patches so I can put it right there.
There you go. Okay, Chris, get to work. He's spending all this time correcting my grammar, which is fine. But there are patches that Kelly needs, and that's more important than what I say. Let's kind of move on. Oh, wait a minute. He just chimed in. Absolutely, he said. I will get those patches out.
Yay!
So yeah, hopefully that works out very soon. So the next part of this, as I told you before we went on air, is something I call off the sheet. Here we go.
Let's go off the sheet. Challenge a bowler to appear on a future episode.
I would like to challenge Will Madison.
I would say Diana Zavulova.
The Better Russo, Lauren Russo.
We're looking for anyone who has a passion for the sport and a unique story to tell.
All right. Well, Kelly Whipple, who's it going to be? Who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling with the Feth?
Okay, I think I have to challenge one of my tour roommates, Hope Gramley.
Okay.
I think she has an incredible, not only story, but just a passion to share. And, she's had some really good success right off the bat this season. And I think that she's a great advocate for the sport and that her voice should be heard well.
Yeah. If memory serves, you're not the first one to challenge Hope, and I don't have a direct connection with her, so maybe you can help with that.
I think I can do that.
A little bit. She also just became the head coach at Trine, if I'm not mistaken.
She did. She has a lot to talk about, so I'm going to have to put a little birdie in her ear.
Yeah. Put the birdie in her ear. I'd be, honored to have her on, and if she needs a contact, there we go. Brilliant call. Hope needs to step up to the plate. Let's go.
I knew that Chris would like that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's not to like? She's a former Rookie of the Year, I believe, and just a super talented player on the women's tour. So Hope, if you're listening, bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com is the email. We would love to have you on. So next week is an interesting show next week. We'll put it that way. I didn't have a guest lined up until this morning. Okay. So I'm thinking, how am I gonna do this? And like you said, and Mrs. Pfeff would agree, everything happens for a reason. I tell her things happen just because, but however you want to categorize this, I get an email this morning and it was sent at, some ungodly early hour, but whatever, people email overnight, right?
That's true.
3 words: book me in. And you know who it was from?
Who?
It was from Jason Belmonte.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah. So Belmo is going to come on Thursday, May 29th, 7 p.m. Central. Of course, people recognize him instantly. He's done all these things that no other competitive bowler has ever done before. 15 major championships, converting really most of a generation to the two-handed style. And he will be here with us live Thursday, May 29th, 7 p.m. Central. Have you met Belmo? I'm sure you've seen Belmo.
I've seen him. I don't think I've ever had any direct conversation with him. I've seen him bowl at the PBA events that have been close. There was a few at Bolero a couple of years ago that I went to and watched, but I don't think I've had any direct conversation with him, no.
Okay. All right. And to be fair, I did go up to him at All-Star Weekend and ask, and we emailed back and forth. He didn't just email me out of the blue, but I thought it was cool that it was a 3-word email. But
yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. So, Belmo will be here next week. Kelly, it has been a pleasure getting to know you and your bowling story. Love that you're, going at this head on, taking the ultimate challenge in women's bowling and just getting through it with hard work and grit and determination. And, with Chris by your side, I mean, you can only go up from here, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate you spending some time with us tonight.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. You bet. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. We'll see you on Thursday live here with Belmo. Until then, have a great week.
Thank you for watching Bowling with the Fef. Pound the like button and subscribe button. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and it's free. Bowling with the Fef is brought to you by Chip Magnet. Raise your snack standards.
Jerry's Score More Bowling Supply inside Wagner's Lane. So Eau Claire, Wisconsin area's leader in bowling products and services since 1988. And Visionary Video Hub. Video with impact.
Email bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com with questions or to appear on the show. You can also reach out on your favorite social media platform.
See, you had to come on.